Hi, welcome to another edition of Legal Quilts. Today we're going to do the one that I talked about last time, but it wasn't really a portable one. I wanted to still do with portable ones while we're still in vacation, but some places kids are already back in school, so summer is coming to an end. So this is really a project that you can work on. It's quick, it's easy, but it's not portable. But this is something where if you get your pieces cut in advance, you can just do it when you got 5 minutes on, you got 5, 10 minutes, get some machine time in, make some of the pieces, set them aside, and you can go back and do whatever you were doing and come back to it later when you're ready to put it all together. So it's a really simple, scrappy project, and it starts out as circles. Do this side. It's just circles, but there is no curved piecing, sort of, kind of, mostly. All right. I'll show you what's kind of curved piecing, but it's not really. But it is. It's a circle. That's all you need. It is one piece. All right. This is called the Magic Circle. Missouri Star has a template of it, but you know how I feel about having special tools for each pattern. We used to get by without having all these templates and special tools and stuff. Special tools. But I advise you to watch the Missouri Star one in addition to this, because they really do show also how to do it and with their tool, and it always helps. Look at a couple of videos. This is a really cool thing, and it can be done scrappy, which is what I'm doing, where you have everything front and back of the quilt is going to be different. Okay, no plan thing. You can do it so you have a planned top and a planned back. You can do it scrappy top and same backing. If you say you happen to have a lot of things you want to use for backing, you can do the same backing. I'm doing it completely scrappy, so it's pretty, because you know me, it's scrap summer, and I like to do completely scrappy where it is what it is. Okay, and this one, what I like is you can also have the scrappy backing, and you'll see how this all comes together, and it looks really cool with the scrappy backing. But it also looks really cool. Missouri Star did it with a planned backing, and it also looks cool too. So what do you start with? You start with just the 9.5 inch circle. This is where Missouri Star, they have the pattern to cut the circles. If you want to cut them all by hand, it's 9.5, so I don't know if you can make this on your AccuQuilt. I did mine on my Cricut, which involves just going in, finding the circle template, blowing it up to 9.5 inches, and then sending the fabric through and cutting it. I did it on the smaller mats because I wanted a variety. Even if I did it on the larger mat, I'd only get 2, so I can still have a lot of variety. The directions I read, you can do this with a layer cake, which gives you some planning, because in a layer cake, the 10-inch layer cakes, or the 10-inch pre-cuts, you get kind of a plan thing, so everything's coordinated. So you can have scrappy coordinated, which looks also really cool. But I'm doing just true scrappy. Now that's the downside to this, is you need at least a 10-inch square of fabric to cut your backing. So your smaller scraps aren't going to work for this. But you need at least 2 of those for each piece, one of your front and one of your back. And if you just want to make a coverlet, that's all you need. A coverlet doesn't have that third layer in there. It's a little easier to work with. It makes for a lighter, maybe a summer type blanket, on those cool, or a fall or spring when it's a little cool in the evenings and you don't want a full-size quilt. You can do that. I'm doing a quilt. So you also need, for every front and back you need 1 9.5 inch circle of batting. I put that through the Cricut too. It comes off the mat just fine. Doesn't leave a lot of residue on there, so it's fine, and it'll cut through it. I did set it for a little harder on my cutting setting with my rotary blade, so it does go through the fabric, go through the batting a little better, but that's the only difference between cutting these and these. All right, so if you're just doing the coverlet, you just lay your two pieces right sides together so they're right sides together, one on top of the other, okay? And you make sure your edges are kind of matched here. You want your edges to match. Okay, you want it to be nice and straight here. And if you're doing the coverlet, you're done. Okay, if you're doing it with the quilt, if you're doing a quilt, because remember a quilt is 3 layers: backing, top, backing, and batting. Okay, this seems kind of counterintuitive, but trust me, it makes sense. It'll make sense. This is the way you do it. Put your batting on top. It doesn't go in the middle. Your batting is your top layer, okay? And you can use some clippies to hold it in place so that it doesn't slip while you're sewing, okay? I'm going to flip this over. You can start with your batting on the bottom if you want, so that you got your fabric on the top. And you kind of do want to work with your fabric on the top. I'm trying to get my edges to meet here. Even with the Cricut, somehow my sides aren't working right, but that's okay. Even if you don't get them exactly right, it's okay. Remember, there's no quilt police. You just have to, because you'll fix it in the next stage. As long as it's not too far off, you'll fix it in the next stage. You don't have to use a lot of clips. It's just to hold this in place a little bit, okay? Because you don't want them to go shooting off into the ether while you're trying to work on it, okay? And the batting can be a little smaller because that'll make it a little less thick in the next stage. So I just 4, see? And then you're going to sew it, okay? And this is where I said, remember I said no curve stitching? You're going to sew in a circle. So you kind of have curved stitching because a circle is a curve. But you're sewing a straight line in a curve. You're not trying to sew, you know, between pieces. You're just sewing a solid circle. And this is a solid circle. Okay, let me move this a little bit closer. Maybe you can see what it looks like on a machine. And then you just sew your 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay? Sew your 1/4 inch seam allowance. Loosen that up, lengthen your stitches a little bit so you're not killing your machine. Okay, loosen your tension, and then because you're sewing through really thick layers here, and then you just sew a 1/4 inch all the way around. That's why if your edges don't match 100% correct, they're probably less than a 1/4 inch off, so you're gonna get the same thing. Whoops. Don't sew over your clips. It's a lot different than sewing over a needle. I'm not even sure I could sew over a clip. It might do damage. Right. And you sew the complete circle. Don't leave an opening. All right? And you'll see why in the next step. Okay? It kind of sorts itself out in the edging there. All right. Keeping your 1/4 inch seam allowance. All the way around where you started. And it doesn't matter what thread color you use. Oh, something's not right here. I'm hearing funky things. Okay, we're gonna stop that for a moment. I'm hearing funky things here. Oh, that wasn't good. Alrighty. Let's see. Not sure what's going on there. Alright. Let me finish this. Let's see if it'll finish now. It was pulling funny. Nope, now my needle's unthreaded. Okay. Well, when you finish the circle, okay, you're going to have this completely sewn around. And then, this is where the tool comes in handy. I just cut a piece out of a spare manila folder. You need a 6 and a let's see, what would half be? Would be 4/8. 6 3/8 rectangle, okay? And your handy dandy chalk. I use yellow chalk because you never know when you're going between light and dark. And you don't want to make your mark here yet. You just want to lay this on here so that you can see where this line would be. And then you make a little slit in your fabric. Don't make it too big, okay? You make a little slit in your fabric on the back side. So you know choose which side, if you're doing scrappy, choose which side of your square is going to be the back side, okay? Make a little slit there, all right? And then once you've done that, you just pull the fabric through so that you're flipping this over, all right? I didn't quite finish the circle here, but this is what you're going to do. You're going to pull it through so that you have your right side out, so that the right sides are on the outside and your batting is on the inside. I'm not going to do that here because the last time I had to do this was the hardest part, was getting it through without ripping your edges. You don't do this too hard. Just take your time to do it. If you can get this far side done, the rest of it goes through, but do it gently so you're not ripping your fabric, okay? So I'm going to finish this one and pull it through, and we'll be right back. Okay, you've sewn it all together in the complete circle. You put your little slit in the only side that shows. I misspoke, and you're either going to put the slash in the batting, or you're going to put the slash in the only side that shows. That is actually your top, not your bottom. That's going to be the top, all right? So when you're layering it out, your top goes down first, right side up, then your bottom, right side down, then your batting. And when you pull it out, then that's the one that shows, okay? Because that flips over onto the batting. All right, but you've already slit it, and you want your slit to be on the top, all right? And then you want to make sure your circle's perfect. I have this wonderful tool. Friend gave it to me, so I don't know where it came from. It's wood. It's so soft wood. And it tapers to a point, and it's nice and long. So you just go in there and push out your seam allowances a little bit. Don't push too hard. You don't want to break through your seams, but you want your seam allowances out just a little bit. You want to make sure your seam allowances are out so you have that actual circle, okay? And that's why this comes in handy, all right? So then you take your pieces, take two, put your slits upright, all right? And then you're going to take this 6 3/8 square, all right? And you're going to lay it on here. Now your points might stick over a little bit. Your points of your square might stick over a little bit, and that's okay. And you just draw along your four sides. Why am I using chalk instead of my disappearing ink? Because you're going to need all four sides, and you want it to be visible. because you might come back to this later, and if you've lost a side, you're not going to know what to do. You're not going to know where your markings are, okay? And your markings are very, very important. So that's why I use this. It shows up on pretty much anything except yellow, and I've got white for that, okay? Or I'd use my blue machine washable for yellow, or water soluble. But you don't want something that's going to disappear because, and you'll see why in a minute, why you have to do all 4 sides, and you might not do all 4 sides at once. So what you can do as you're doing this is make a whole bunch of circles. Then you can take the time and you can either mark as you go, or you can mark them all at once, because again, you're using something that doesn't disappear. Then you're going to take them wrong sides together where your slit is up. You want your slit to be up. Doesn't really matter, but you want your first one to be up. And you see where that line is that I drew? All right. You're going to make sure they're together here. All right. And your ends are sticking out. You know, your circle is against each other and nothing's sticking out too much. And then you're going to put it under your sewing machine, and you're literally just going to sew on that line that you just marked. That's it. Okay. Remember, I promised you no curves other than that circle that you're going to sew. That's it. And you go cut. And there's your top. And your seam is like this. So you're going to open these out, okay? And yes, you'll probably iron them. And this is why you want your seam. Whoops, okay. That must have been my first cut. Good thing this is, yeah. That can be fixed. I'll probably embroider something over that. This is what, you want your cut to be very close to that, okay? But you also don't want it to be very large. You don't sew the flaps down just yet, okay? And then you do the next one. Same thing. Okay? I didn't mark this one yet. This is why you should probably mark them, okay? And you just keep going down in a row until you've got enough, all right? And then when you sew the next row, same thing. Wrong sides together. Okay? Right along that line you've already cut, flip them open. And, whoops, I did that one wrong. Okay? Flip them open. And it looks like that. That one's folded a little much, but anyway, there we go. You don't want your cut off to the side here, because then it won't get caught in a fold. So definitely make sure your first one that you're attaching, when you're attaching it the first time, make sure that first line that you sew is the cut and that it's right there, okay? And you fold it and it'll look like that, and you just keep going, you know? The next row you'll probably sew a little bit more. It's going to get a little stiff sewing right there with all these layers, but you just keep going. It's just, you know, the next one. And it'll eventually, you'll wind up with all 4 of them folded over, kind of like a cathedral window, but not as hard to make. So you're going to get it like that eventually, all right? Although it'll actually be sewn. Then, when you're all done, you've got all your rows done. When you go to, that's when you sew these flaps down. And how you sew them is you start on this side and you kind of sew in a curve. So you do this one, and then your next one that would be right here, okay? Actually, we're going to do it that way, okay? Your next one, all right, we're doing this for illustrative purposes. So you start down on this one, you sew this down, then you go up and you sew this one down and keep doing that, kind of in an S pattern. And then when you get to the end, you turn around, you come back. So you would do this one down here, and then you'd come up and get this one. And that adds a little interest to the backing, because then that'll go through all the layers. And that's it for this quilt. That's it. If you do the, and there's no half circles or anything, your edge will have this, the edge of the quilt will have this scalloped edge without having to do knife edge quilting, because it's quilt as you go and binding as you go. It's all done, okay? And you're done. It's just sew your circles together, and when you sew them all down, that's your last bit of quilting, and it's done. All right? I'm looking forward to seeing how the lines go here. Again, like I said, look at Missouri Star. They've done this. I'm sure there's other videos out there. But basically, yeah, when you do this, it should sew together to the end there. It might have a little bit of space in there, but that's okay. And you just keep going, and then you sew the next one. You know, you've sewn a whole row of these, and you just keep going. When you sew, you know, sew this one and then sew this one. You could do it that way, or you could do whole rows where you've sewn them into a row like this, and then you just fold them all to get, you know, you lay the row along and you sew along. I actually like the idea of doing them each individually. But that's it. That's it. That's how you make this quilt. It makes a lovely, wonderful ending. I'm going to see if I can't get a lap quilt out of this, which I figured out is going to have to be about 7 by 7, so I got to do 49 of these, and I've got 4 cut. So, but like I said, this is something, cut all your circles out. When you need some machine time, cut out your circles in your batting. When you need some machine time, go for it, and you're done. And that's great. So, this is almost the end of scrap summer. We've got one more this month, and then we'll have the Labor Day weekend roundup. So we're going to get 2 in a row. We usually wind up doing that, where we're going to have, and then Labor Day weekend we'll have the scrap summer roundup, where we see what we've finished or not. And then we're going to get into work in progress winter, which I've got some ideas for that. But also, don't forget to vote in the poll. I'll put that link in there again, or leave a comment. Leave something in the comments where you say whether you want to do the ocean or the temperature. So I think I really would like to work on that throughout the year, where I show you how to do that and finish it. And that is, and so that's the plan going forward. So just remember, quilting is supposed to be fun. If it's not fun, take a break. There are no quilt police. Like, subscribe, share. Again, if I get to 500 subscribers by September 16th, I will do a live for National Sew Jelly Roll Quilt Day. Sew a Jelly Roll Day. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I'll do a live. It won't be all day. It'll just be a short one, I promise. It'll be not very long. And that is, so like, subscribe, share. If you want to keep seeing these videos, throw a few bucks at me. It's like $2 on Ko-fi. Throw a couple of bucks at me. It'd be appreciated. Buy my stuff. The link is in the show notes. And also, I want to see what you make. Throw me, post your stuff. Send me links to your stuff. I'd love to see it. I can be found on Instagram at Legal Quilts. I'm on Mastodon as Legal Quilts. I have my Facebook page. All that's in the QR code. I don't think Mastodon's there. So I'd like to see what you do. Always willing to share. All right? And so until next time, have fun. Take care.